Hello, everybody. Um, yeah, this is the Village Witch Ramblings with Claire, voyant psychic medium. We have a guest today. I want you to just kind of like introduce yourself, say who you are, how we know each other. Yeah.
Yeah, my name's Jeremiah. I'm 38. I um, grew up in Nebraska and went to Grace University for college, and I met Claire there. And I, we connected. I feel like it's one of those things. Was like I don't know if people would normally put me and you and Leah and some of the other people together, but it happened, and uh, I'm glad that we've been able to reconnect in recent years, and just kind of see where and recently we kind of reconnected over Grace with some of the other people that we went to
Yeah.
college with. Um, so and I don't know how far your podcast reaches, but Grace University was a Christian college in Omaha that
Mhm.
does not exist anymore. Um, and so yeah, we'll get more into that, I'm sure.
Yeah, I actually found out that there is like a book that is like the story of Grace. Did you know about this?
I don't know if I did. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I found it. I bought it. It's in the mail. I'll get it someday. And
Yeah.
I'm excited to read it and because I'm gonna go all the way back and like really dissect and talk about Grace because my
Hmm.
first podcast because he didn't get a chance to listen to the first one, but it's okay. But all it was just me talking about the stumble bumble fall into how I ended up at Grace because that wasn't my first choice. I was accepted and ready to go to North Park in Chicago. And I showed up at Grace like I know it was like days into the welcome week. Like I wasn't there on the first
Hmm.
day. And it was very like, oh, okay, this is a Christian college. I don't want to go to Fremont. Fremont's gross. Like I don't want to go to whatever. What was that called? Oh, I just farted out of my head. Midland. And
Yeah.
I don't want to go to Dana because that felt like
Uh-huh.
yucky, sporty or something. And there's like Concordia, that was too small town. And that was it. That's all I had. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to go to Grace. And did not
Yeah.
know what I was getting myself into.
Oh, yep. What
Yeah.
it did it have to do with your parents pressuring you into
No.
going? Yeah. Or
So no, no, no.
saying they would fund it or
No, no. Okay.
no.
My so I was gonna go to Chicago because I have a lot of friends in Illinois and we were all gonna go to the same college. Like it was a whole thing.
Yeah.
My mom pulled me aside that summer. I can't even like I don't have like a good memory of it, but I know that she told me that
Yeah.
she had MS and she's like,
Hmm.
you can't go to Chicago. And so then I had to figure out whatever, and then that's how I ended up figuring out Grace. But the weird thing, and there's a big giant part of little Claire that hates that I have to admit this right now, is that my dad and I feel that my mom followed, but like my parents didn't talk to me the whole first year at Grace because they said I joined a cult.
Okay.
Totally didn't think I did.
Yeah. That's
But
kind of interesting, because a lot of people end up at Grace because their families say you should go here,
yeah,
you should go to Christian college, and you're kind of like, no,
the
I went there, and my
complete
parents were
opposite.
like, you joined a cult. Yeah.
Yep. I
Yep.
know, and I
They
got
could see it,
treated
and you
like
couldn't. Yeah.
right. It was so interesting because there were so many times where, like, the struggle that I had, like, I didn't grow up in the church. I didn't grow up, like, learning the Bible. I would never read it. I knew nothing. And,
Hmm.
so, like, going to Old Testament class, it was like, I remember pulling all-nighters being like, "This is so fucking boring. Why do I have to learn all of this?"
Yeah.
And, like
Oh, it's such a different perspective, versus those of us that really grew up in it.
I
It's like,
know,
this
because
is old news. I know
I
what
would
this
see all
is.
of you guys, like, it's so easy. Like, you guys were all fucking around doing whatever, and I had a
Hmm.
full-time job, and I was doing this. Yeah, so and
Yeah.
I guess, like, now fully coming out of it and being able to I know that I've been out of it for a really long time, but I guess I'm just getting the pull now to like dissect it. I don't fucking know, but whoa,
Yeah.
it's a weird time. It was weird.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but so yeah, that's how I ended up there. That's my view on it. So it is. I know that that's why it's going to be a different take because I remember when I was at Grace, I remember fully thinking like, why am I the only one that thinks this way? Why am
Mm-hmm.
I like I would get punished for the things that just didn't make sense, you know?
Oh, yeah,
Um,
that's so interesting.
yeah. But
I
the
love that we're
weird
gonna have this conversation. Yeah.
the weird thing is, and this is something that I just kind of came into, my childhood was so sheltered because
Mm.
I was grounded like the whole time. There was one time where I was grounded for a full year. Like, take off the door, take the music away, you are grounded, you know?
Uh-huh.
Um, so going to Grace, I felt so fucking free. Like,
Yeah.
it was not free at all. Like, it was not.
Plus, you were in a small town for the most part,
Yes.
right?
Oh yeah, I went to school in Mead, so
Mm-hmm.
my graduating class was 20. Yep. Did you go to a public school?
Um, for high school. Um,
Were you homeschooled for the first part?
so I was in public school for kindergarten, first, second grade at the elementary school down the hill from where we were living, and my parents got oh man, what's public school going to do to our kid? You know, kind of this world that we'll talk about more, I think. But
Yeah.
um, so then they pulled me out. They're like, "We've got you on a waiting list to go to the Christian school. But in the
Oh.
meantime, mom's going to homeschool you." So it was just third grade that I was homeschooled, and they got me in to the Christian school.
I don't
Um,
mean to laugh, but I there is a part of me, and I think it's because I went to Grace, I can always tell that if someone was homeschooled. Like,
oh
even
yeah,
just a teeny bit, and, like, yours
even a
the only
teeny
one
bit.
here. I feel like I'm like, "Oh, there's just a little it's a social awkwardness." I'm sorry, I'm being real.
Yeah, and I don't know how much similar Christian school kids are and homeschool kids are, but
Probably, yeah.
um, so fourth grade through eighth grade, I was at Trinity Christian School, big
Oh,
mega church
mm-mm.
school. So, um, and they just have K through eighth. Um, so graduated from eighth grade. They're like, we're it's expensive, and they got all
Right.
four of us kids eventually in the Christian school. So, um,
Wait, pause. I need to okay, I feel like I have to
yep,
write this down. Alright,
yep.
so
I'm the oldest. I have three younger sisters.
okay. So there's 4 of you,
Yes.
and you're the oldest, and 3 younger sisters. Okay. And what I don't know, like what denomination did was like what was
So
hallowed? I don't know how else to say that.
yeah, my main church until junior high was, it was called Evangelical Bible Church. It was part of Fellowship of Evangelical Bible Churches. So you think evangelical
Yeah,
Christianity, like, I
free.
mean, smack dab in the middle of that. It did have, I believe it maybe did have some Mennonite roots as well. Don't it's like don't quote me on that. I think I remember that um, in the history of either the denomination or that church, um, and then the Christian school, because that also played a part in like that denomination. That church was non-denominational,
Right.
but very much more like, I don't know if all non-denominational churches are like this, but they were more on the charismatic side, um, and that kind of thing. So we would have chapel on Wednesdays, a lot of the kids went to church there. Um, and so that was like hearing about their experiences was very much different than mine as far
So
as
pause,
like,
pause, pause.
yeah,
Chapel. We had chapel on Wednesdays. What if with your school or with the church?
at, at the school, at the Christian
Okay.
school.
Okay. Okay.
Yep.
I just want to make sure.
So we, yeah, so that was, they would bring in guests kind of affiliated with the church a
Okay.
lot of the time. I mean, the church and the school were pretty intermingled. Um, and so my church was very much more um, conservative.
Hmm.
Um, we had, I hear about churches where, we had music, we had drums, uh,
But you
and
weren't
that
like
kind of thing.
speaking tongues, screaming in the hallways and whatever. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Um, went
Oh my
to,
God. I just got a notification that said that the book just arrived right now.
oh, wow, great timing.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I was very much a church kid at my church. During those elementary years, we went to Awana on Wednesday nights,
Okay. So
scripture
that's
memory.
like Lutheran-y feel.
Mm,
So that was with your church?
Awana.
That was with your church, not the school.
Hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, that was Wednesday nights at my church. Um, we would go, and there was a book every week. There was
Yeah.
a scripture to memorize, and then fun and games and stories and stuff like that. Um, and then there was a
Mm.
leadership shakeup at our church. Senior pastor left, worship pastor left, youth pastor left.
Ooh.
Um, yeah, and so we follow that. My parents were like, we need a good solid, our kids are getting into youth group age. So they actually, the church that the youth pastor went to ended up being a big mega church across from the Christian school, um, West Side Church. And so that's where, and that's a Southern Baptist,
Yeah, that's a
actually.
bit different.
Yep.
Wow.
Um, and so still, yeah, it was a little more raising hands
Mhm.
and that kind of thing. Still no speaking in tongues or anything like that. Um, but that's where I spent junior high and high school. Um, so Wednesday night youth group and Sundays. Being a mega church, we had retreats, fall retreat,
Oh,
and
I bet. So many
summer
freaking
camp,
cool
and
things. Did you get to
yeah.
go to like different countries and stuff?
Did a mission trip to Mexico in my 8th grade year or 7th grade year. That I didn't do any other like mission trips. But we had like a senior ski trip my senior year.
Oh,
We also at that church had a youth choir, and we started traveling with that while I was there. So every year there was a big trip. Um, and the church partially funded, so it wasn't too expensive. So I
wow.
went on a lot of those. Went to Orlando was the first year, and then um, we went to Arkansas one year, and then we went to New York City,
Oh
kind
my
of East
gosh.
Coast trip, and then we did New York City like once New York City before 9/11, and then went back after 9/11. Um,
Wow.
yeah, so
Wow.
big, yeah, trips with that. And so
That's awesome. That's
it was,
amazing, and I'm glad you had that I'm glad you got that.
yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, it's kind of interesting to think about the good things that I got to experience
Mhm.
with that. But everything was a very big production,
Oh, yes. 100% there. Yeah. Money.
and yeah, you probably know. I mean, I think they probably still. I mean, it's a big thing there. Christmas pageant for 2 weeks, fill the seats with the big production of a Christmas pageant, flying angels and camels and
Oh my god. No, I didn't know
the
that.
whole
Wow.
thing.
Wow.
So I I did the pageant. I think just 1 year because it's just such a time commitment,
Right.
you know. Um, but there was so much going on at the church. I didn't do extracurricular activities at school during high school. You know, like I was doing stuff at church. You know, and we kind of eventually outgrew the gym at the church as far as our youth group, and like we rented out a space that we got bused to. Um, but we really got to like make it our own, make it look cool with cool lights and
Hang
sound
on. I feel
system.
like
And
I'm like envisioning this. I might have went there. Where was it?
it was off Industrial Road, like 144th and Industrial Road in a strip mall out there. We called it the warehouse. Um,
Okay. Yes.
yeah. So
Whoa.
I ran the sound system, played the music, and that kind of thing with my eventual getting into radio.
Yeah.
Um,
For some reason, I want to pinpoint on the fact that you said, like, I couldn't do extracurricular activities at school because I was so
uh-huh.
active with the church. So it's almost as if you were homeschooly still, but just
Yeah, I
still
was still, even though I went to public school, there was still a big level of like being
isolation.
sheltered,
Mm.
isolation. Uh-huh. No other accepted ideas
What
other
school did
than
you go to? High school.
I went to a big public school. I went to Millard North.
Okay.
Um, so anybody who doesn't, I mean, the 500 or so in each grade,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. You get
Um,
lost. Yeah.
yeah. So that was entering that
I
school
can't even
was a big
imagine.
kind of shocker for me after being in Christian school and being sheltered my whole life. I was like, people cuss so much. Like I was shocked at the level. It's like people just like say cuss words all the time. I didn't at the time. This was such a new thing for me. Um, but
Wow.
I'm like, I I love though. I mean, I feel like I still throughout that time in my life, I still could see. I was like, it's not a big deal that people so it doesn't make them bad people,
Mm.
you know.
You were
S
learning about
Yeah,
other kinds of people, I guess, yeah.
right. But I hadn't been exposed to that, especially,
In
you know, it's
that
like the last
large
time I had
amount, of course.
yeah, the
Yeah,
last time I was at public school was second grade, you know. So it was like
yeah.
otherwise I'd been the everybody I'd been around was at church for the most part, you know. Um, yeah,
Oh,
because
wow.
eventually my first job was at a grocery store and had coworkers and stuff. So, but I had been in public school for a couple years now, so you know, it
How
wasn't.
old were you when you had your first job?
I can't remember if I was. I think it might have been when I was 15. Um, and if you remember that part of town that they built that grocery store by Westside Church. So everything we lived there. We lived behind Westside Church, and so my former elementary, junior high school was across the street, and my church
Wow.
was. We had a gate that opened up in our backyard. We could go to West Side, walk down the hill to the grocery store to work. Everything was right there. Um, but yeah,
Hmm. So that was it was convenience and yeah. How I there's a part okay, how much older are you than your sisters?
um, it's less than 2 years. With my, you know, she was born December of '86.
Oh, wow,
Um,
okay. So they
and
were and then the okay, yeah, tell me the next one.
the next one's November of '88,
Okay.
and then April of '92 is the last one. So a little bit bigger of a gap
Right.
with my youngest sister,
But yeah,
but yeah, definitely like me and my sister Jessica, like we were close enough in age that um
did that stuff
we were
together.
yes,
Yeah.
yep, and I was driving her to high school eventually and stuff too. So,
Yeah.
um, yeah,
Wow.
it was. Mhm.
How was okay, there's a part that I want to kind of bring in the just the I'm bringing in astrology. Okay, so
Yes.
because we are born in the same year, we have the Scorpio energy. So we have Scorpio South Node, Pluto in Scorpio, Saturn in Scorpio. So a lot of Scorpio energy is delusion. And I don't know if you've ever thought about that. And like your South Node represents your past, it could represent your childhood. And
Hmm.
you coming from delusion into the North Node, which represents your future, which is your own hard earned stability.
Hmm. Okay.
Does that feel good? Because I love
Yeah,
when
I like that.
yeah.
Mhm.
Because I came from like not the church, but heavy manipulation in my own childhood, delusion
Mhm.
to then finding my own stability. So it's similar
Yeah.
but different. Um,
Yeah.
but the Scorpio part of it also is that especially our year 85, we have been through so fucking much.
Yeah.
And it's just like we are that, I mean, generation, couple years of people that like nothing surprises us anymore. But we
Yeah.
also have that detectiveness in us because it's Scorpio, where we're like, but why is this happening? What the fuck
Mm.
is going on? Who
Mhm.
what it, so I do enjoy that. And I like, so that's, I guess, something that I enjoy about you is that I know I've seen you, I guess, just in from what I can tell, what you're putting out, like you're growing and you keep
Yes.
evolving and you keep like trying to be better. And that's always that Scorpio Phoenix, yeah.
Mhm.
So, yeah, I just wanted to like poop that out. Also, I have to say that we're recording this on an Aquarius new moon, and he has an Aquarius moon. So it's just very fitting
Yeah.
because this is very like, it is a barrier soul kind of a feel, but it's more of a like, this is just what's happening. This is my reality. This is my truth,
Mhm. Mhm.
And I think you've put this out there in a lot of different places and ways and whatever, but um I don't know. I'm just excited. So I guess, okay, well, do you have any questions about the astrology before we go any further, I guess?
I do not.
Okay. The only other thing I want to say is that we have right now in the world, we have the North Node in Aries. So
Mhm.
you have so much Aries stuff. So
Yeah.
this time is very amped up to be better. Like, I'm gonna make more money. I'm gonna have the better relationship. I'm gonna speak better. I'm gonna be better. Like everything, like you have that pressure, and
Mhm.
it's good. Keep going is just, I guess, what I'm saying.
Yeah. Kind of a momentum.
Yes, because your Libra rising is taking a shit right now. Well, because you're coming off, like the Libra rising is how you come off to the world. And
Yeah.
the South Node, which represents our past as a collective, is in Libra. So Libra energy right now is just like peace was never an option. That is bullshit.
Mhm.
You can't come off the way that you have been coming off. You have
Yeah.
to be different now. So,
Yeah.
and you have so much Aries that it's like, it is an easy switch to just go into that Aries energy, but it's, I'm sure, very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
It does.
Okay, I'm done reading you, I guess. So I guess I want to ask, I had a little bit of notes and so I just recently found out that Grace is built off of like Mennonite foundation or whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be figuring out more or whatever, but I just wanted to like know like what is your perspective? What do you know about that? Let's pick brain. Yeah.
Sure. The both of my parents have some um, Mennonite Brethren denomination background. Um, so I know sometimes we think about Mennonite and think about like closed off communities, which I'm sure, like we've talked about, just even in the way that you grow up can be closed off, whether or not you're in a closed off community. Um, but my mom grew up in Minnesota in a small town, um, and my dad grew up in um, Kansas and then Oklahoma on a farm. And
Wow.
yeah,
I just need
so
to say I need to pause for 1 second. My mom's side of the family is from Minnesota. My dad's side of the family is from Kansas. What the
okay.
fuck? Where
Yeah.
in Minnesota?
Southern Minnesota, the small town. It's not too far from like Worthington and Windham. It's only like an hour north of Iowa,
Oh, okay.
kind of south central Minnesota.
Yeah.
Um, so visiting my grandparents there growing up, like um, there were like two churches in the town, nothing else in their small town.
Mm.
No gas stations, no post office anymore. And so uh, very much that church was like singing hymns with, I think it was an organ. I don't think they had piano. I think it was more organ.
Mhm.
Um, and like fellowship hall in the basement. Um, we spent summers up there sometimes. I remember we went to vacation Bible school at grandma and grandpa's house one summer at least. Um, so I mean, we went there a good number of times. My grandpa would uh, occasionally speak or preach in the church. I would say a lot of the time that we went there growing up, there were maybe 40 or 50 a part of that church.
Wow.
Very being in a small town like that.
That's a lot, yeah.
Yeah, and so I
Is
think
your
that
dad oh, wait, pause. You said your grandpa, s he was a preacher or pastor?
no, he was not the pastor, but he was like a deacon or elder in this church.
And this was a
Um,
Mennonite church?
yes, Mennonite
Oh, okay.
Brethren Church, and
What does
um,
brethren mean? I'm sorry, I know nothing.
yeah, I mean other like brothers.
I
So,
know.
so um,
But that is that what it's called? Like, anyone will say, like, "That's a Mennonite Brethren church." Like, why? What is that word? Why?
yeah, I mean it probably speaks to the patriarchy of men in leadership in in this church denomination, but
Wow,
um,
okay.
I feel like it's fairly common. I don't know. I don't know how big that denomination is, but I believe it's a specific denomination that both of my parents, went to churches and kind of in that belief system.
Okay.
Um, and so, yeah, Minnesota. I'm talking about my mom's parents. Um, we uh, went to um, eventually my grandparents growing up were living in Missouri, um, and a country church, Sycamore Grove Mennonite Church. Um, Kind of proud of myself that I remember the name. Um, and it was literally like a country church. Like again, there's probably 50 to 100 people at that church, but small towns and communities around there, like people came out there. There was literally like fields and just country around the church. But they eventually like built on a gym to that church and stuff. Like um, my uncle on my dad's side um, was a singer, was a part of like a barbershop quartet. Um,
Fun.
yeah, yeah, they were international champions in
Wow.
1986. So, um, very much he led a lot of the singing in this Sycamore Grove church, um, and they had like an Easter cantata that he always like directed and stuff like that. So it's a big part of that community as well. Um,
Was that church
so
I have a question. Was that
yeah,
church considered with that word brethren?
I think it was. I think it was a Mennonite Brethren church.
Okay.
Um, but I don't know for sure. I would have to research and look. Um,
Because I just Googled, because I was just that word obviously is
yeah,
sticking out to me for some reason. And it is a different, like, it's like,
offshoot
yeah, a part of, like,
or
I can't think of the word. Like, this is, oh my God, my brain. Hang on one second. Like, this is Mennonite, but it's the subcategory,
okay.
whatever, you know?
Yeah,
And I'm literally just scanned. I know nothing, and I'm going to
yeah,
report back facts later. But it's seeming that the Brethren is a bit more Amish than the other one.
yeah.
So, did you see that growing up? Did you like see the?
So yeah, I mean, in this church, more so than my more so than the Mennonite church in Minnesota, like this one in Missouri, um, women would wear a covering over their head. Um, it was mostly like a white mesh, like my grandma would like pin it into her hair. Um, so very much they honored and held up this like women should not wear like jewelry to adorn themselves and like show off. My grandma wore just very like
So, like this thing?
yes
Okay.
or similar. Yep.
Yeah.
Um, sometimes a little bit bigger than that.
Mhm.
Um, and yeah, just very plain dresses. Um, not really to not no shape to them. Just put it over the length of your body type thing. Um, and that's you know not big on jewelry, not big on
Is there a certain
things
color?
like that.
Did the women all have to like wear a certain color?
I don't think it was conformity in that way.
Okay.
Like I feel like
I know I'm going
a lot of
Handmaid's
them.
Tale in my head a little bit, but
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I feel like my grandma wore a lot of like floral patterns and stuff like that. She probably made a lot of her own
okay, I see. But did they all have like the big
stuff,
like
but
there's a box. Okay. Yeah, like
yeah, it's I don't if it's like what we've seen from Handmaid's Tale. I it wasn't like that where there was a but just people look pretty like plain,
yeah,
like
yeah.
and hymns in that church as well. Um, and in these churches and the especially in the church that I grew up in first, like everything is about bib- biblical literalism. Um, what the Bible says is what we expect. My grandpa, his favorite verse to always tell all the grandchildren was Romans 12:2. Do not be conformed to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Um, and
Hmm.
um, so stressed in that do not be conformed to the pattern of this world, or do not be conformed to this world. It was like kind of this thing of like, don't get caught up in worldly things.
Okay.
Um, that I think in some ways is kind of this, don't get too involved or like culture too much is kind of how it
Like
got
don't be
interpreted.
well, okay, at Grace, don't get outside of the bubble.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Be in this Christian bubble because if you don't stay within it, you could see yourself. falling away, you could see yourself becoming one of the lost.
And you will get lost.
Yeah, right. Because
It was a
evil and
fear.
Satan
Yeah.
is out there, and he's the deceiver. He's the ultimate deceiver, and you know, you kind of need to stay within Christian fellowship is a term, um,
To be safe.
in order to be safe and not become deceived or lost.
So
Um,
that's it. Like
yes.
looking at the black and white of that, just right there. Whoa,
Mm-hmm.
Colt. Whoa.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, I would love to hear you tell the story because did you remember the goldfish story from the that we were talking about in the group chat?
You said it was a story that was told in chapel.
Bart, you don't remember it?
I don't think I do.
Um, somebody came to chapel, took a goldfish out of its thing, and like literally put a timer for I feel like it was like 3 minutes. Like it was way too long. And we're all
Yeah,
sitting there just like, what? And it
we're
was
gonna watch a fish die right now.
I
Yeah,
know, I know. And
yeah,
there was like so much in me of being like, oh my God, I need to go save this fish, you know? But
yeah,
it was the concept of if you get out of the grace bubble, you will die.
yeah. And there was, a pressure to be involved in a church. I can't remember if we were expected to report report what church we went to or anything like that. I don't think there necessarily was, because I kind of got out of it because working in the radio, I got onto a Sunday shift. I was
Yep.
working on Sunday mornings
Yeah.
at the radio station. Um, and so
Greatest show ever. I listened to it forever, by the way. I loved that.
yeah, well, and yeah, I mean, Sunday mornings I worked the worship shift, um, but
Wait,
yeah,
no, you did like a like really late night one, didn't you?
on, on Saturday nights I
Oh, that's
did,
what I meant.
yeah.
Sorry.
hmm So yeah, but yeah, for a few years, especially while I was in college, I worked on Sunday mornings, and um, so somebody had to turn Christ Community Live on, um, and so uh,
He worked for the radios that is it was affiliated with Grace, right?
yeah, it was owned and run by Grace at the
Okay.
time. Um, I got a part-time job there my senior year of high school.
I knew it.
So
I was like, you were there before.
yeah,
I felt
exactly.
that. Okay.
So that was kind of like I had dreams about working in radio, and I grew up listening to that radio station,
Mhm.
and so it was kind of like this thing, like though, like in high school you do like a career thing and study, and it was like radio broadcasting. You want to be a DJ, there aren't that many jobs, and if you do get a job, it doesn't pay well, which is true. So then when I got a part-time job at a radio station my senior year, at the radio station I grew up listening to, and I'm a Christian listening to Christian radio, um, I was like, well, this is it. Like, I'm
You
not
hit
going to
your
give up
high.
my job to
Yeah.
go anywhere else. I know what I'm doing now. I'm going to Grace University. I'm going to get a radio broadcasting degree, and like this is what I'm into.
Hmm.
So, but all of that also was a part of my being sheltered, being programmed. Stay. Even I branched out from listening to exclusively Christian music eventually, but even that, like, ooh, like watch what you take in, because you
Oh.
can get deceived or taken in by the world, um, and that kind of thing. So,
I started listening to Christian like punk, I think. Reliant K was like MXPX.
hmm
That was really my first. Well, and then the hardcore. Like I was very into
yeah,
like the screaming music. I was a very angry teenager. but I don't listen to it at all anymore.
That's funny.
But it was all the concerts, it just that feeling. I loved it.
Hmm.
But um anyways, it was a huge scene in our day. Like
Yeah.
Omaha had a very big Christian music scene.
Hmm.
And it was fun. And I found my loophole where my parents, like, the world is telling you that the church is safe, so you can't not let her go. That was the only thing that they would let me do, even though they were not Christian at all. They did not believe in they didn't go to church at
Hmm.
all, like at all. But instead of being grounded all the time, I could go do that kind of stuff, whatever. My youth pastor that was at the church, like, literally started, of course, this is my life though, the week that I fucking showed up, you know?
Yeah.
And he was into punk music and all this stuff, and he was the one that kind of introduced me into that. Going to Grace and showing other Christians the Christian music that I listened to and them telling me that it was terrible or sinful because it wasn't like
Oh yeah.
hymns or whatever, you know?
Right.
That was mind blowing to me because I was like, I'm not out here listening to cocaine and gin and
Yeah.
like what? Like
Yeah.
it was just so
I
weird
know.
that I was outcasted from the outcast. Or
Uh-huh.
oh my god, it was a weird feeling.
I even like yeah. I had a Five Iron Frenzy CD, and
They were so good. Yeah.
yeah, and my dad was like looking through the lyrics, like where's all the Christian content on here? Like there's and the CD I had, just there were a few songs that you could tell, but a lot of it was just fun music that
Yeah.
was uh
Trying to
safe.
help the freaking kids of our age be like,
Yeah,
"Hey, parents, let them just listen to it. It's safe. We're not
yeah,
terrible people." Like, that's
yeah,
all it was.
yeah.
And that, like, when I went to Cornerstone Festival, did
Hmm.
you ever go to Cornerstone Festival?
I did. I think it was my senior year of high school. Me and my best friend went. I used my Christian music website, and um, I don't know if I had started the radio thing yet. I might have, but I took a tape recorder with me and like went to the press tents, and like
Oh, wow.
I got I recorded Toby Mac just saying, "Hey, this is Toby Mac. You're listening to whatever," and yeah,
Oh my
um,
god, I didn't even think of that aspect of it. Oh, that's cool.
yeah. It
Huh.
was interesting too. Yeah, I had never seen. I saw Me Without You there,
Yes.
and there
Oh,
was
yeah.
thrashing around with plants on stage, and
Yep,
yeah,
all
it
the
was
flowers and oh, so good.
yeah.
It was so good. Yeah, 2003 was the year my parents went. My first year was 2001.
Okay.
My
You
parents
were
were like,
there the year your parents went? You
yeah.
went with your parents? Okay.
Okay, so my mom, my parents were like, okay, we're gonna do this thing where when you're a senior, you get a pick of the vacation. They stayed in their little motorhome the whole time,
Yeah.
and they didn't do anything. But it was very nice to have freaking air conditioning because that was the first time I ever had that, and the only time we ever had that the whole time I ever went there.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, that was the year that I actually met all my really, really, really close friends. Cornerstone is gonna have to be a whole other I think side note because I researched the shit out of Jesus People USA, Japuza, and that's some weird
Uh-huh.
shit too. Have you ever done that research?
I mean, that's like going back to like Jesus People of the 70s and stuff, or
I think so.
yeah.
That's who ran Cornerstone.
Okay, yeah.
They lived on
That's
that property
interesting.
all year.
And yeah, I mean that is some of the pioneers of Christian rock and roll
Yep.
in California, and that has like Calvary Chapel roots and stuff, I believe. So,
Hang on. There is like something that's happening in my head. What was that? Is it Striker?
Striper.
Striper? Okay.
Hmm.
Is it the
To hell
fear
with the
of the
devil.
devil? The hell with the devil. I could just hear it.
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
my God. Okay, sorry.
My dad had that record.
Oh,
I mean, I don't think it was his favorite, but he had it, and they
yes.
had this black and yellow,
Yep.
uh, like guitars and like car, and like they were all in the like it was like hair
Hair.
metal.
Mhm,
Yeah,
mhm. They were there one year that I was at Cornerstone. That was fun. Ugh, fun. Okay, no more Cornerstone because
yeah,
but that's kind of like how I like that was Christian to me. That was my
yeah.
church. So going to Grace, that wasn't that was not what it was. Well, okay, I want to know how because both of your parents did okay, correct me. Did both of your parents go to Grace?
Just one of them.
Okay, tell me that.
Um, so my mom, like, she's has like 3 or 4 older siblings. Big family. Can't believe I think it's like 6 or 7 um kids in their family. My dad is similar number. I don't even know the exact number. I could try to, but I'm not going to.
Uh-huh.
Um, and so she had older siblings that had gone to Grace already. It was
Oh,
kind of like um, there was a good number of Mountain Lake, Minnesota, but even when I was at Grace, there were people from the Mountain Lake area, like these families, that kind of generations. Like we know of this, you know, Grace Bible Institute of,
yeah.
eventually changing their names throughout the years, but like Grace Bible College, um, this was like, which kind of makes sense, as we've talked about, like Grace's Mennonite roots, and then if you've got a Mennonite church in the area, that is like this is a place that you send your kids to
Yep.
for a good Christian education, to be um, safe from the world and be trained correctly. A lot of missionaries went out from Grace, that aspect, preachers, um,
I
and
think that I actually read, and I'm gonna correct myself if I'm wrong because I know that it's in this book, but it
uh-huh,
was designed to train people to be leaders in the churches.
yeah,
Yeah. So
that makes
yeah, going missionaries and churches, whatever, but yes.
yep. My mom went there, I believe, in '78, I want to say. Um, and I don't think she didn't end up getting her degree, but she met my dad through a mutual friend. My dad had just come up to Omaha because his older brother had come up. Um, he went to a My dad went to a Christian high school in Hutchinson, Kansas. Lived in dorms, didn't live with his parents in high school. Um, and I think it was called Cornerstone Christian. Um, and so when he was finishing up high school, his older brother was already up in Omaha working. And so he was like, I'm going to go up and find a job in Omaha. And so then um, he met my mom at a friend's house through a mutual friend. But so yeah, she was there for college. He was there for work. Um, but had all of this Christian
Same
upbringing.
stuff. Yeah, wow.
Hmm.
And they're still together?
They are. Yep,
Do they like I whatever. Do you have contact with them?
I do. Yep,
Okay. Mhm.
and not a lot, but
Yeah. Yeah,
what?
you have a limit. Yeah.
Yeah. So, um, but yeah, they are
Cool.
still in a pretty conservative Christian church. I would say. I think that they've opened up on some things. Um, it's like family dinners now include wine sometimes, and stuff like that. But uh,
Do you know of any like Mennonite anything in Peru, Nebraska?
no,
Okay. The only reason I ask that is this is that I got my shed from them.
okay,
And when they found out that um Oh, I have to tell you the story first. Okay,
Yeah.
so I met this woman. I think it was because she, like, posted on Facebook, like, "Oh, there's sheds for sale." I don't know, it was something like that, but she was doing it the, like, "She shed," you know? So, I was like, "Okay, I'm gonna connect to her because I need, like, yay, woman, I don't wanna be, like, mansplained through this whole fucking thing." So,
Mhm.
I chose her, and we were talking about it, and she helped me set it all up, whatever, and she was very, like, hesitant to talk about the color, until, like, very, 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 very end. Like, I had already picked it out, it's glitterberry pink, it is bright pink,
Yeah.
and, when we went to go tell him, like, she was very, like, "We have to tell," like, she's not Mennonite, obviously, and was, like, tiptoeing around and trying to whatever, you know? Uh, but then he found out, "Oh my god, why are we doing this pink?" You know?
Mm.
Then found out that I claimed to be a witch.
Mhm.
Um, he has had to come back here, like, 4 times. And it has nothing to do with, like, whatever, like, the windows were upside down, like, weird stuff, you know,
Yeah.
and just random things, and every time I can just tell that it's just such a uncomfortable weirdness, like, you know, but there's
Yeah.
so much of me that's like, "Oh my god, like, I know you."
Yeah.
Like, we're on the same team, and you just hate me because of what I look like, stop.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. So it was a very interesting, I guess, dynamic and whatever. And obviously, I was supposed to be on this little weird journey with my shed, but had no fucking idea about the Mennonite aspect of all of this.
Mhm.
Um, so where, um, okay, well, I guess I want to ask you your grace experience. I know that's ginormous, but I want to know, like,
Yeah. I mean, I think that in some ways, like, it was very much a different experience than you had in a lot of ways because I was conditioned to Christian environment. I was used to how this all, like this whole background I had in church things and church stuff, like that was a lot of pretty much all I knew. I knew some of the cool Christian stuff too, but I'm like, I can walk into these spaces. I've
yeah.
been there, like I know people like this,
Hmm.
and I've now been to public school and I've been exposed to some things, but I have up around people that are very sheltered sometimes and stuff like that. Like I know how to navigate this. Um,
I think the music really helped for you.
yeah,
Like, that was the only way you ended up not hella sheltered.
right. Yeah, I think so. I think that may be true. And so I think that yeah, I'd been to Christian school before and stuff like that. Um, so I went 4.5 years, got my degree, and
Did you live on campus? I can't remember.
yes.
Okay.
So yeah, I did live on campus the whole time. My first year, I was roommates with Wade, um, and then kind of years after that, I just got my own dorm room. And then for whatever, like, what's the name of the dorm, like the person in charge
Um,
of each hall?
oh, RA.
Yeah. So I was an RA like junior, senior year, I think it was. Um, so eventually, yeah, I kind of became one of the leaders on campus, and
Yeah.
that kind of thing too. So like, um, as much as in some ways, I feel like I was finding the rebels and, there was a little bit in me that way as well of like, you know, I mean, I wasn't a big rule breaker and, helped enforce the rules eventually as an RA, you know.
I was a
But
team lead my second year.
okay.
So that's the step below the RA.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I picked my team leads and stuff. Um, so yeah, I mean, um, so yeah, we had, I think it was Wednesday chapels, just like my Christian school at Grace, and weekly required scanning in to prove that you were there. Um,
Oh, I never grasped that that was like a
why we were doing that, or yeah, yep, it was required to scan in to prove that you had attended. Um, and I would say that in a lot of ways, though, I mentioned a little bit in that group chat, like think that um, Grace was good for me being in a specific kind of sect or like division of Christianity. Um, that although Grace had its roots, it still attracted um, Christians to come to a Christian college where they had come from different denominational
right.
backgrounds and
And I
beliefs.
think that that was all like because of money. They needed to allow more people in and like
Mhm.
they definitely kicked out a lot of people though.
Yeah, yeah, right.
But
So,
yeah,
but I think, yeah, even in the classroom there, and the teachers, we had some teachers that or professors that really were like I don't know
out
about
there.
what they believe, or like
Yeah.
this is way different. Like, we talked about a professor that like his big thing, he taught New Testament, and I can't remember what else he taught, but um
Who are you talking about?
Nebuchadnezzar, or not Nebuchadnezzar, I was talking about the
Oh,
guy that we so you found the YouTube video of him preaching.
yeah. Haugie.
uh
Haugie.
County, yeah. um his big thing was like, believe and you will be saved. Like, there is nothing beyond believing a concept that Jesus is the Son of God, and you could, doesn't matter what you do after that point, you are saved. Yeah, it was kind of his big thing, and it was
Oh my
like,
god, that's so weird. I didn't Were you in his Romans class by chance?
I don't think I was. I think I was in a. I think I went through Romans, but it was with somebody else.
Because mine was like a
I think it was with Mike
short
Camper, actually.
Mine was a short, like, must have been winter break or summer or something, because I lived there the whole time.
Uh huh.
Um, I remember that concept where he was very much, if you believed, you are saved. So you have to ask for forgiveness, right? Like, if you don't ask for forgiveness, then you don't go to heaven. The whole predetermination, blah blah. But like, that's why I wrote down your Romans thing because I wanted to know if it was going to bring up anything for me with that class because I got kicked out of that class because I asked the question: if you believe in predetermination, then why is it wrong for a woman to have an abortion if you know that the child is going to have addiction to crack or grow up in a terrible home or whatever, like something like that. And he just was like, get out.
Mm.
Yeah. And I was so like, what the fuck? And then I got kicked out of another time in that class because I have a twin that died at birth. And he flat out told me, your twin is not in heaven then because your twin didn't get to ask for forgiveness. I'm like,
Wow.
what?
And that's. I mean, I grew up in a belief system of, like if an agent of accountability concept of like,
Right. I remember thinking that way with a lot of churches, but he was all,
yeah,
no.
yeah. And so, yeah, I mean, that class,
Yeah.
then like even like theology 1, theology 2, we're going through concepts of biblical theology, and we're also covering like, in some ways they're like there was a little bit of like, and this is the right way to think about this one, but some people think this different way.
Yeah.
But a lot of times it was open ended. Like, um, some denominations feel this way about things, and here are the biblical um, references of why they believe this certain way, and it just opened up for me like a lot of like there are like a lot of well-intentioned, well-studied theologians that come to very different conclusions, and they're not trying to be um, just more loosey goosey with how they approach things. It's just they come to different conclusions and different beliefs. And I think that stuck with me. Like it
Oh,
didn't really,
wow.
it, it didn't fully manifest itself until later, but just like everywhere I had been, it was like, well, we we interpret the Bible literally, and if you read the Bible just what it says and what it means, then you come to the right way of thinking about things, which is one specific way. And everybody that doesn't believe that way, they're lost. They're not with us. And um, not necessarily that they're going to hell, but Catholics were going to hell for sure. And stuff like that. So
And I love that you just said, and I'm so thankful that we're having this conversation because I'm seeing just from your point of view, like the theology class opened your mind, To
yeah,
me, I was like trying to like make it more because I didn't understand why it was so
very limited, huh?
yes. I don't know why, but I have a memory of I got kicked out of that class too. But like I offended this girl with red hair. I can't remember her name. It was something with the predetermination thing too. But
Okay.
yeah, and I got kicked out. And I literally, yep, it was him because I remember him saying to me, I have to kick you out because all of these people do not know how to think like you.
Mm. So he was compassionate towards your the way you were thinking in some ways,
But
but
yeah,
just
and I had a
he
couple
can't handle
teachers that were that way,
yeah.
but there was teachers that were like, "You're the devil."
And in some ways, I feel like professors at Grace all had different ways. It was like a very, to me at the time, it felt like they all have their own intricacies on what their own beliefs are,
Right.
which is very interesting to me. Like
Yeah.
we're getting exposed to different concepts, and I feel like I can't. I wish I remember a lot more of the specifics on this, but I feel like weeks when we would have a special speaker as well, a lot of the times it felt like something out of the box that is like you're being challenged to like this is somebody that probably thinks differently about things than the way you grew up with, and
Like a
taking it,
speaker at chapel.
huh? Like at chapel, and like
Okay.
they would have special
Hmm.
week. I can't remember what that was called. Sometimes there was like chapel every day with a special speaker. You remember that?
Mhm.
Um, and class that like we read this book, The Liquid Church, and
Oh,
like Hannes read a book from him,
what is
and they're like, who? Erwin McManus?
Erwin McManus?
Yes. So he is these are kind of progressive, like this whole class is kind of like kind of covering progressive ways of doing church and concepts of like, so like there's these churches out in California, and they're like how they attract people with art and like serve a homeless people and different things like that. And um
Hmm.
so that was all interesting too. I think also like Rob Bell had started to make his Numa videos. You familiar with Rob? You don't know who Rob Bell is? So Rob Bell has been ostracized by the church now because he think in 2012 came out with a book called Love Wins, and kind of questioned um, the reality of hell, and um, whether or not maybe just love wins, and there's a God that loves people, and that kind of thing. But like
Ah,
at the time that we were in college, like he was at a church in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and they made very like well produced short videos under this name Numa, um,
spell that.
and Nooma,
Ooh, that does. Okay. Hmm.
and they were like 5 minute videos of him just kind of like, let's think about a concept. And it was like he came from a progressive place. Um, so I can't remember an example of what kind of, that looked like, but um, it was always like something that made you think, and
Okay.
maybe the way that we should look at loving people and accepting people is different than what we um, grew up with. I think is a lot of it. So I did those kinds of things kind of formed and kind of helped me start changing the way I thought about things. I would say that another aspect of being at Grace was just like growing up with true love waits and like abstinence, and I signed a true love waits pledge that hung on my wall in high school,
Wow.
and um
Hang on. Do I really have a memory of a poster in Grace with a kitten with something about masturbating? It,
every
like,
time I masturbate a kitten dies or something like that.
yeah,
I mean, that was like, I don't know, I don't remember it being hung up at Grace, but I mean,
I really
I
think I
feel like that
remember
was a
it
common.
being in the like hallway, like to go into the classrooms.
Oh, really?
It's Stanford.
Huh.
Mhm.
Yeah. And so, and my parents were like, you're not going to date while you're in high school. Like, dating is for when you're finding somebody to marry. So, and kind of too many things can go wrong. We're staying away from that. Um, so I was never allowed to fully like in
Explore.
date or explore. Yeah. So it's like, then you get to college and it's like, well, that restriction is away and you're not at home anymore. You're living in a dorm. Um, so it was such an interesting, like, I, to like meet people and like, I think I like you. And then like, let's go see a movie together. And like the first experience like that, my freshman year, like we went to a couple of movies, and we like held hands a bunch, and of course I never kissed until I got married. Like I still like was a good Christian kid, like, but it was just like I'm feeling all these things and I'm touching a girl during a movie, like we're holding hands the whole movie and our hands are getting sweaty and clammy and whatever. Um but then like 2 weeks later I'm like, I don't think I could see myself marrying you, so I got to let you go, and just like that, I have to feel like I can marry you to stay with you. Um, so it was like, um,
I just
yeah,
have to
like,
say, like, that's such a ginormous concept for an 18, 19, 20-year old to even think about.
right. Yeah, we were so young, and it was like, yet it was like this. One of the other people in our group, I think it was Jamie, was saying like, uh, it was just this expectation. It was like nobody really talked about it, but like by the time you're out of college, you will have found your spouse. So like
I
this is
don't
the
think
time.
that I don't think that people maybe didn't talk about I don't think that the boys talked about it maybe.
Girls talk.
The bathroom stalls were plastered in, "This is what I want my wedding dress to be. I want this to be da, da, da." Like
Yeah.
They were going to school to get their MRS degree.
Right. Yep. And yeah, I mean,
I had
yeah.
so many people. I remember I like literally asking people like, "Oh, what are you going to school for?" To find my husband.
Wow.
Mhm.
Yeah. So
That was reality. When you're 18,
yeah.
you don't know what you're fucking doing.
Oh, and yeah, I was like, so that was such I. Then I felt like by the end of into my sophomore year, whatever, I was like, okay, I'm gonna officially like, I'm gonna take a break because I feel like I have this reputation of now of like liking too many girls and like, oh, I like this girl now. Now I like this girl now, and oh, she's not interested in me. Well, now I like this girl. Um, and it was just, I mean,
Exhausting.
yeah, I think I used to really like feel bad about myself, but about you know, gosh, like I'm so messed up, and like, yes, like there's a like, um, feeling about, what do girls go through in those years as well, like constantly every interaction with a guy, like, oh, he likes me, surprise, surprise, um, and what does he want or what are his intentions and different things like that. It was all though like exploration though and like figuring stuff out, and um I wish I knew then how,
Yeah.
you know, how much in a way I feel like I knew that I could be friends with girls without um it leading to something else because I did have friends and with I feel like my personality and growing up with sisters, like I tend towards gravitating towards friends that are of the opposite gender. But you know, even did have a friend like junior year where we hung out a lot and stuff, and she eventually was like, what are your like? I feel like I'm like you, and yet I don't know if you feel the same about me. And I'm like, no, I feel like you're my good friend, and that's it. And she kind of was like, I don't think we can keep being close friends anymore because I'm trying to find a husband type of thing, like, uh, and if that's not where you're at, then, we
Oh
can't
my god.
get close. But yeah, there's all kinds of relationship type things that were messy.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Do you remember the like 7 a.m. class that we had to go to that was about like for dating?
No. And I tried to avoid 7 a.m. play
Well,
classes plague, but
well, yeah, I did too, but I think that this was like it had
it's no requirement
yeah.
about dating.
It was like a class that we had to take, and it was basically like this is how you date. This is how you are gonna get married, and what you like stuff like that. I can't remember,
It's like my guess is that I did, if
but
it
it was just normal stuff for you.
maybe I don't. Yeah, I wish I remember more about
But the
what that
thing
was like. But
with
I bet it was pretty messed up. But
right when you were just talking, it made me realize I think it must have been into our second semester in the first year because I remember going into that class and I didn't go very much. I know that I had people like write my name in or whatever because I couldn't
yeah,
ever wake up. But I I never once had the thought that a guy talking to me meant that he wanted to like try to date me or marry me. Like that was
uh,
not even a fucking concept at all. And then
yeah,
after that class, I was like,
yeah,
what is happening? I feel like
yeah,
but I mean, obviously nobody's going after me because I had a fucking mohawk and didn't look like them. But whoa, the
yeah,
stark difference of our journey was so weird.
yeah.
Huh. I want to keep going, but we're going to go way over 2 hours, and that's too much. So we have to stop. Yeah. I want to also eventually like pick your brain about like where you're at now, what's going on, like because
Okay.
you use like what is the word? Like deconstructing. What is the word?
Deconstruction, yeah.
Yeah, like I don't even know anything about that. And I would love to teach people. I would love to help like
Yeah.
because oh my God. I didn't know that I was like, oh for a while.
Whole community of people who have deconstructed
Right.
and and the church community also you know has a sense of people that are deconstructing and like that's a bad thing and it's all basically though allowing yourself to ask questions
Mm,
and where does that take you and you know a lot of times it does take you in a different place than you've been. It doesn't a lot of I mean there are people that deconstruct and they are still Christians, but it looks very much different. Um, but it's kind of a rethinking of everything, you know. You unravel the belief system and it has an effect on everything else about what you think about everything though. So
yeah. But it helps you to get to you.
yeah.
And that's the whole like that's why we started this at the beginning where I'm like the answers are within for me and
Mm,
I'm gonna figure this out. And first of all, I just want to say like church, whatever, just in general, like yes, it is so good for so many people and whatever.
mhm.
But everyone has a I want to say obligation
Mm,
to understand themselves.
yeah.
And that is something that I don't think that this particular kind of place we were in did not allow that.
Mhm.
We
It's
were
not
supposed to just
yep.
follow orders.
And there were the Bible was used to, you know, the the heart is wicked. We were taught, like looking to yourself for the answers is going to lead you away from God,
Yeah.
is kind of what is taught. So, um,
And that's the farthest thing from the truth
right.
because we are all connected. Like we are. Have you ever read, listen, whatever to the Conversations with God?
What is that?
It's a book. It's a long time. I don't know how many books it is, but it was like fucking 15 hours, I think.
Conversations with God.
Mhm. And I really do recommend it. It's really good because it made me, I don't know, I guess just like understand. It's a personal thing with every single person. We have to figure out who we are, what is our relationship, what is God, are we like what goes you have to unravel. I love the unravel. Like
Mm,
it really is. Because when you're kids you get programmed. And for you, it kept going for a while.
right.
And like I mean, so there are certain chunks of our lives where we get programmed, but we gotta unravel